I'm joined here today by Charlie Farren, Whitburn Band Chairman. Thank you for joining us, Charlie. So Charlie, if I can start by asking you that you've played for a few bands in your career, what did you know of Whitburn Band before you joined its ranks as a player?
I knew pretty much everything about the band prior to joining. As I grew up in the town, I actually began learning at the primary school just up the hill here for the band hall. And then my first band was Whitburn Youth Band. I played in the junior band, as it was called then, for a short period of time until my teacher moved me to his band in Falthouse. So I've known all about the band, and even though I was kind of late in joining the band, I suppose, in my playing career, every year I played with the band still at Galladay. So even when I was at my studies at the RCS in Glasgow, every year I would be home for Galladay and played with the band at the Proclamation on the Friday night and the Galladay itself on the Saturday. So I've had a long established contact with the band even prior to joining the band.
And obviously as chairman you're a player, and when did you join as a player in Whitburn Band?
I joined the band in November 2014. I think it was 2014. My daughter was 6 weeks old, so I shouldn't really get that wrong. But yeah, I joined the band then. After the Scottish Championships the following March, I got appointed to the position of band manager, and then 2 years ago I became the chairman of the band, and I've held the position up until now.
What characters and conductors were around the stands at the time that you remember in 2014?
The band was full of characters. Ones that easily jump out at you are folk like Stuart Bryans, who played baritone. The bass section is always a very famous pair of brothers, and the Frasers and the Gourleys. The Gourleys are also Whitburn lads. Obviously, no Alec Vidler, he cuts my hair, you know. So there was a lot of different characters. Conductors wise, when I first arrived, our professional conductor was a Dutch conductor by the name of Eric Jansen, and it was great to work with somebody of Eric's stature, because he's got a wealthy experience. He was successful with the Schoenhoven band, but also his military background as a musician. So he brought a different slant to the approach in banding and music for what I'd had at previous organisations.
There's two main aspects to what the band does. It's contesting and it's community events, concerts and galleries. How important is the balance of the two aspects, and how important is Whitburn Galladay to the band?
First of all, addressing the Galladay is probably the one and only event that the band must attend every year. Some folk may not know, but actually the band was integral in helping the forming of the Galladay, and that's actually still in the band's constitution, the importance of our presence at the Galladay and leading the parade. To the best of my knowledge, there was only one occasion when the band hasn't played at Galladay, and that was in the early 80s, when it clashed with a really big competition. And I know that even then, speaking to former committee members and past players of the band, the decision to miss Galladay was absolutely massive, but also that the town turned on the band for no being in attendance at the Galladay. So we had a similar situation a couple of years ago where we were presented with another big contest, the Band of the Year contest, and we took the decision not to attend Band of the Year so that we could play at Galladay. And actually it wasn't a difficult decision for the band. The Galladay, first and foremost, must always come at the very front of everything. As far as other stuff, it's important that the band is seen not just in the community here but a little bit further afield. June is traditionally what we would call marching month. We start with Bathgate Galladay at the beginning of June and we finish at Whitburn Galladay at the end of June. It's massively important to the band that we're seen in the community, not only for concerts but for folk who don't get the opportunity to come to Galladays. that they get that opportunity to hear us and other guises as well. Contests will always be here. They're an important side to us because we're an elite band. We're one of the top 10 bands in the world, and we have been well established in that position for the last 6 or 7 years, when the band has massively improved. And so contests will always be there. The band will always do contests. We can do anywhere between 5 or 8 contests a year, 4 of them being what we would class as majors, where we travel down south or abroad. However, it's important that we maintain and sustain the link with the local community, and doing concerts here in the town and a little bit further afield, and the rest takes care of itself. Just as a wee side issue, I mean, June is probably the month in the year where the band make money that helps us sustain ourselves for the second half of the year, where we have 3 big competitions, and it costs a lot of money for the band to attend these. So anything that we get in June for earnings is massively appreciated, and we couldn't do it without the invitation of these towns to perform and march in their processions. So we're very fortunate and thankful for that opportunity.
So moving back to you as a bass trombone player in the band, can you think of your proudest moment as a player with Whitburn Band? There's possibly a few for you to
There are a few. My first ever Scottish with the band, when we played harmony music, I was very, very proud that day, because that was obviously my first Scottish one with Whitburn Band. That was tremendous for me personally. It was a marker as an individual player that I could still play and compete at the highest level and hold my own and be amongst the best. But then looking further after that, the two that really stick out for me is our performance we won in the Grand Shield in 2017 at Blackpool, and then a couple of months later when we gained second place at the British Open. And actually the irony in the whole of that was it was probably the best performance I've actually been involved in all my brass band playing. Certainly my proudest moment. But that would be every other British band, including the #1 ranked band in the world. And to be pipped by a band from Switzerland was an absolute sickener. So the band were ecstatic and celebrating and jumping for joy, and I was actually hiding the other side of a pillar cursing because I couldn't believe that we'd played so well. I knew by speaking to other people prior to the results who had heard all the performances that we were right in there. And you try not to get your hopes up, but as they're counting down and you know they're Black Dyke, Foden's, I'm like, oh, we're in here. And then Corey came out and everybody's like, well, that's it, we've got to have got this. And then second Whitburn and first Valencia however, we'll get there, we'll win a major eventually.
In your time here as chairman, you've also been band manager. How has it been being a player and a manager? I suppose it's like a player-manager in football. How do you manage the two sides of your job, as it were, with the band members?
It's incredibly difficult, actually, and I don't think many people would know what it's like unless they've done it. In one way, you're trying to be a member of the team, be a friend, but at the same time, you have to be a confidant. You have to be hard and tell folk what to do. At times you need to let a player go, and so therefore I have to maintain a certain distance and not be involved in the day-to-day joviality and that kind of thing of the band, which is hard for me because I like to think that I'm a happy-go-lucky, easy-going, one of the lads kind of thing, but all the while maintaining that wee bit of space as the leader and the figurehead of the organisation and the band. So it's tough. the day-to-day running of the band never stops. There's something happens every single day. You're in touch with conductors, librarians, sections, making sure everything's okay, try to fix gigs, contacting soloists, talking about money. It's a full-time job on top of your full-time job, really. The phone never stops, but I'm happy to do it. I'm one of many, well, not many, because there's actually not been that many presidents or chairmen. I'm actually the first chairman the band's ever had. Before that, we had the title of presidents, but that's now the president is the president of the trustees. So I'm actually the first chairman, and it's a fantastic honour to have the position, and I'll do it as long as the members elect me to do so, and do it with great pride and joy and happiness, and hope that I can continue to do the best and lead the band in a way that everybody feels satisfied and happy with.
Right up to date now in 2020, probably the hardest thing as a manager and a player you had to cope with was the band not playing together, and of course that lasted for over a year. How was that for you, and how did the band, or what did the band do to keep going? There must have been some really low moments in that period. The band, for all its years, having never not played for so long together as a group.
It was incredibly difficult. I actually did an interview a couple of months into the pandemic for the BBC, and I actually started crying. I got asked a question that I never, I try to always think about the questions I'm going to be asked so that I'm ready for them, and this one particular question about what it's like not being with the people you spend all your time with, and it was very upsetting, and that made me actually realise that it wasn't just me, but the other 29ers would all be feeling the same way. I knew that it would be difficult for some of the members who, I realised rather, that it'd be difficult for them because they were maybe living on their own. So they were in lockdown, so we tried to get together on Zoom, and we did it many times, but there are only so many quizzes people will be happy to participate in. But we made a murder mystery night work, which was a great laugh. But more importantly, to keep the band playing, and I felt it was really important. I quickly realised we weren't going to play together for a long time. So I felt it was important to keep the bands engaged, because if our members were blown, then I knew that coming out the other side of this, I wouldn't lose any players. But I needed to give them a purpose to play. We were fortunate that we have a really great guy who takes care of social media, and we have a technical guy within the playing organisation who is an absolute whiz with sound technology and audio and video stuff. So we started making online recordings where the players would record themselves playing their parts at home to a click track, and then it would be pieced together to make a performance. And actually, it was the best thing we could have done. We won a couple of competitions, participating in online contests as a result of it. It kept us all in touch with each other, and communicating on our group chats in that kind of way to make sure that we knew what was happening and we were all understanding. And it's actually made us stronger, I feel, as a unit. We've just literally began resuming rehearsals back in the band hall, and the joy that everybody had to be able to come back and play was massive. And I'm incredibly proud that we have managed to keep it together, keep ourselves successful, increase our footprint on social media, and be just as strong as what we were prior to the pandemic, in a fashion that we were very well placed to compete and be strong when contests return later in the year. I'm very much looking forward to us being able to go out and play again.
I know the band has recorded over lockdown in these digital performances around about 28 videos, which is incredible. What's it like recording at home, and what is it like for you as the chairman to be able to see the finished article?
Recording at home's horrible. I'm not going to lie, it's incredibly difficult. it's hard to put emotion into your playing when you can only hear yourself and you don't know what everybody else is doing. Yeah, you have a guide click that helps keep us all in the right place, but you then hear in the finished article, it's actually pleasing in a different fashion, because it's actually quite nice to see yourself and see everybody else as well and see them playing. At times very emotional. We recorded a couple of pieces where, I'm not going to lie, Ken, it sounded awesome and brought a tear to the eye. Two pieces in particular that spring to mind is we recorded Hope, a piece by Sting Iggerts, and so much so that he actually commented on the performance himself, saying how lovely it was. And then we have our hymn tune that we got fortunately arranged by a member of the band, Chris Shanks, which is Whitburn, the hymn, and we recorded that as a tribute to a former member, Sam Knox, who passed away earlier this year, and dedicated that to him. So probably of everything we've recorded, they two pieces mean the most to me and probably many members of the band. Whitburn obviously remembering Sam, and Hope because we all have the hope of coming back and being able to play in public again. So both poignant pieces for different reasons, but very proud of everything that we've achieved.
More recently, the band held its first Whitburn Virtual Festival. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the virtual festival was really a follow-on from what we'd participated in earlier in the year. We'd actually tried to begin planning for our own festival in October in 2020, but we were unsuccessful in gaining funding to help make the event happen. We went back for a second time, redid our application, and fortunately this time we were funded from Creative Scotland. I contacted personally every band that entered the competition, because I knew from past experiences when the association send out communiques to the bands, they really do get ignored. But if you get a personal contact for somebody, it goes a million miles. It's easier to explain what's happening, how things are going to be, what we'd expect bands to do. So that actually helped tremendously. 37 bands, a couple of percussion ensembles, a fantastic entry for youth bands, and almost half of every section that competes in Scotland was represented. So it was actually a very, very positive thing that we were able to give something back to the bands here in Scotland and give them the opportunity, because a lot of them don't have the technology to do it. So we actually showed them how to do it. We told them how to record themselves and how to put the audio together and that kind of thing. We had a few members of the band actually who are tech savvy also contacting these bands and helping them, and the whole thing was a massive success. We had our professional MD, Professor Nicholas Childs, also comparing the event. We're fortunate that our associate conductor Brian Allen, who is the former head of brass at the RCS, was also one of the main adjudicators, and we used our principal players predominantly for adjudicating the contest. So we were very blessed, we were fortunate, and the folk that we have associated with us that we could make it work. It was a massive stress the closer you got to the broadcast. It was incredibly difficult, and there was, in the end, I know for a fact that the contest had began being broadcast. We were finishing Sunday's broadcast at 4 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon, and just tweaking things here and there. And the efforts that the people involved put to make it happen was fantastic, and we were fortunate to have sponsorship for the event for various bodies, and the whole thing just, it couldn't have worked any better. But I've got to admit, I'm not going to be in a hurry to do it again.
So we've asked you about your proudest moment as a player. How about your proudest moment as the band chairman?
Oh, proudest moment as a band chairman. Actually, my proudest moment as band chairman was being elected chairman. Coming from Whitburn, growing up in the town, knowing what the band is, what it means to many people, the people who have held the position before me. That was my proudest moment. I know my mum was cock a hoop. She was absolutely raving about it. So was my father. My wife knows so much because she knows the work that was going to be entailed with holding the position. But I mean, every day I'm very proud about holding the title, and I'll keep doing it as long as I'm asked to.
Finally, how was it? You've mentioned a wee bit about this. How was it on the first night back together on the 20th of June 2021? And what does the future hold for Whitburn Band?
It was amazing. It was great to be back, and to actually have so many of the members attend the first night back, given that there would be some trepidation in various ways with regards to returning, and albeit that it's no how we would normally be, we're not getting the opportunity to sit the way we would sit in rehearsals or anything like that. So, but just to be able to get back and play together was amazing, absolutely amazing. Very emotional for everybody involved, I feel, but a great first step, a really positive first step back. And that told me that going forward, when the competitions return and everything, we'll be good, we'll be strong, we'll be ready to compete and continue from where we left off prior to the pandemic.
Charlie Farren, bass trombone player, band manager and chairman of the Whitburn Band, thank you.
Thanks very much.